Have you ever noticed what happens when someone accuses you of something and you rush to defend yourself? Think carefully. Someone looks you in the eye and says, "You're arrogant, you're selfish, you're fake, you're manipulative." What's the instinct? Panic. Your heart spikes. Your brain floods with adrenaline. And you scramble to explain, "No, you don't understand. That's not who I am. Please believe me." It feels noble. It feels fair. But here's the brutal truth. The law nobody tells you. The moment you defend yourself, you've already lost. Why? Because defending doesn't protect you. Defending proves you needed to. And in the psychology of power, perception is everything. If they see you flinch, they don't see innocence. They see weakness. In persuasion studies, researchers found that people on the defensive are judged as weaker, even when their arguments are stronger. Cognitive psychology shows that confidence is judged as more credible than evidence, which means the calm liar often looks more convincing than the frantic truth-teller. Courtroom research shows jurors rate the composed defendant as more trustworthy than the one begging and insisting on innocence. That's why innocent people who scream often look guilty, and guilty people who stay silent or cold often look powerful. Niccolo Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wrote, "He who explains submits." Modern psychology simply puts science behind his words. Because when you defend, you're not just answering, you're accepting the attacker's frame. You're saying, without realizing it, "You have the authority to judge me. My identity is in your hands." And once you accept their judgment, you've already submitted. Social psychology calls this frame control. Whoever controls the frame controls the narrative. And whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. The attacker says, "You're guilty, prove otherwise." And the moment you try, the game is over. You've already let them decide the rules. Think of predators in the wild. The prey that thrashes and squeals confirms its weakness. But the one that stands still, unreadable, makes the predator hesitate. Humans are the same. When you defend, you lower yourself to their terms. When you don't, you force them to defend why they're attacking you. Even if you're right, you still look guilty. Why? Because only the weak rush to explain. The strong? They let the silence burn. Think of the most powerful figures in history. Not the loudest, not the most liked. The ones who made silence terrifying. Julius Caesar didn't shout when accused. He stared. Stalin didn't defend himself against whispers. He let silence turn fear into myth. Steve Jobs, when challenged in meetings, would often sit in total silence. His lack of defense made others question themselves. Because silence flips the frame. The accuser starts to sweat. The crowd turns. People stop watching the insult and start watching you. Think of the most powerful people you've ever met. Not the loudest. Not the most liked. The ones who held silence like a blade. The ones who stared without blinking. The ones who, when insulted, never flinched. And in that stillness, you second-guessed yourself. Did I go too far? Did I just embarrass myself? That's the Machiavellian secret. He who explains submits. He who stays silent becomes untouchable. And silence, delivered with calm presence, speaks louder than any defense ever could. But there's a darker move. You don't just ignore the accusation. You invert it. Someone calls you arrogant. Calm smile, interesting point of view. Someone calls you manipulative. Cold gaze. Funny how people call manipulation what they can't control. Someone calls you fake. Low voice. Everyone says that when they stop getting what they want. See what just happened? You didn't defend. You didn't flinch. Instead, you flipped their accusation into a mirror. Now they're the ones scrambling, backpedaling, tripping over their own words, desperately trying to explain themselves. And you? You look untouchable. This is power judo. You take their emotional force, their righteous fury, their desperate attempt to control the frame, and you turn it back on them. In an instant, their momentum becomes their downfall. They bleed credibility while you radiate strength. Why does this work so brutally well? Because it hijacks one of the brain's deepest survival instincts, the fear of the unknown. Psychologists call it the uncertainty gap. When people don't know where you stand, their minds rush to fill in the blanks. And here's the trick. They almost never fill it with weakness. They fill it with strength, with danger, with power. Think of primates. When the alpha male is challenged, he doesn't flail or shout to prove himself. He just stares. Still, calm, silent. That stillness radiates dominance. The challenger begins to second-guess himself. He feels the weight of a presence he can't decode. In human terms, this is the status signal of indifference. The less reactive you are, the higher people unconsciously rank you. Your silence becomes a throne. Your calmness becomes a weapon. And neuroscience confirms it. When someone mirrors your emotions, anger for anger, joy for joy, your mirror neurons fire and you relax. You feel safe because you can predict them. But when someone refuses to mirror you, when they remain cold, still, unreadable, your brain panics. It interprets it as unpredictable. And in evolution, unpredictable always meant dangerous. That's why silence, calmness, and mystery intimidate more than open aggression ever could. The quiet man is not trusted. The still figure is not dismissed. Their lack of reaction becomes a vacuum, and the human mind cannot stand a vacuum. It fills it with dread, with awe, with respect. The one who screams reveals their fear. The one who explains reveals their weakness. The one who stays silent forces the world to tremble in the uncertainty of their shadow. In business, a rival says in a meeting, "I don't think his strategy is well thought through." The average man scrambles to explain. The Machiavellian leans back, smirks, and says, "Let's hear your strategy then." Now the rival is under pressure. The room has flipped. In relationships, your partner accuses, "You don't care about me anymore." The average man panics. He lists examples, reassures, begs. The Machiavellian? "Calm, steady, that's not how I see it." Nothing more. Now the drama feels exaggerated. The frame is yours. Online a commenter writes, "You're toxic." Instead of paragraphs defending yourself, you post, "People always call you dangerous when they can't control you." You didn't defend. You reframed the attack into a badge of power. And the crowd starts doubting the attacker. And the coldest of all, disappearance. Someone insults you publicly. And you don't even acknowledge it. Not with words. Not with a block. You let absence sit like a mirror. They spiral. They overpost. They rant. They look obsessed, insecure, unstable. You said nothing, but you just won. The goal isn't just silence. Silence is only the beginning. The true endgame is aura, the invisible presence of someone who doesn't need to defend, explain, or prove. Aura is what lingers in the air when you walk into a room and people lower their voices without knowing why. It's the psychological shadow that makes others question themselves before they ever question you. Because here's the paradox. The more you explain, the more guilty you look. Every word of justification is oxygen to doubt. The less you explain, the more dangerous people assume you are. Their minds begin writing the script for you, and their script is always darker, sharper, more powerful than anything you could have said yourself. The misunderstood man is feared. The predictable man is manipulated. Machiavelli knew it when he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But here's the deeper truth he implied. It's better to be unreadable than predictable. Why? Because predictability is a cage. The moment people know how you'll react, they can trap you, corner you, and move you like a piece on a board. But unreadability is freedom. It is unpredictability wrapped in stillness. And the human brain has always feared what it cannot decode. When people don't know what you'll do, they tread carefully. When people can't provoke you, they stop trying. When people can't judge you, they start defending you instead. That's the turning point. You've crossed the invisible line. You've left the fragile world of defense and entered the brutal world of definition. You are no longer reacting to their reality. They are reacting to yours. Your silence defines you. Your aura commands the room. And your enemies collapse under the weight of their own noise. History proves this. The Roman general Sulla was feared not just for his ruthlessness, but for his silence before battle. He gave nothing away, no anger, no excitement, no explanation, and his enemies trembled, filling in the gaps with their own dread. The Japanese samurai called it Fudoshin, the immovable mind that radiates calm, unreadable dominance. Even in modern psychology, we see the same law. The less reactive you are, the higher people rank you in status. Indifference is interpreted as superiority. So remember this, defending yourself feels noble, even righteous. But it's submission disguised as dignity. The moment you try to prove your innocence, you've already accepted their judgment. You're playing their game on their terms. And in the game of power, that's suicide. If you want power, stop explaining. Stop justifying. Stop seeking approval. Because power doesn't come from being understood. Power comes from being feared, from being respected, from being untouchable. And that, whether whispered in the halls of Florence by Machiavelli or echoed in boardrooms, courtrooms, and relationships today, is the first and final law of dominance. Those who do not explain rule those who do.